fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. In other words, please elaborate on what you introduced. Who is the Lord of sacrifice and how does he live in the body? O Madhusudan. And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? And Prabhupada, Krishna answers. Prabhupada gives some very beautiful purport in relation to all these different terms. In text number 4, Krishna says, "O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adibhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adidaiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the Supersoul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adiyagya, the Lord of the sacrifice." And we mentioned previously how there are different types of yogis. Specifically, Srila Prabhupada mentions the two types of yogis. The one type of yogi is the one that's represented here, that meditates on the Supersoul in the heart of every being. But also there's the Supersoul, there's a yogi that meditates on the Supersoul of the universe, the Hiranyagarbha yogi. Prabhupada explains that in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then comes the important part where Arjuna had asked what to remember and who to remember at the time of death. And Krishna says, "And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt." We discussed that in detail, including the next verse. "Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail." And where Prabhupada in the last paragraph of this verse, he says, "If in one's present life one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life." And I emphasize this point that often there's a mistaken idea that we don't need the mode of goodness. We should just be situated in transcendence. And all that is well and good if one is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, but in a conditioned state, the jiva needs, as Prabhupada says, stepping stones. So the mode of goodness is essential, even for the bhakta, for the devotee, and for the mode of goodness. Ideas about the mode of goodness are explained in the 18th chapter of the Gita. Eating the right foods, speaking the proper speech, don't steal, don't lie, those types of things. Those are building blocks also to shaping the consciousness of the conditioned jiva. So we should not make the mistake of relegating the mode of goodness to nonsense. It's very essential, as Prabhupada has said, and has said it many times. And Prabhupada continues, "That will help one by transference to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendentally absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental, spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the best process for successfully changing one state of being at the end of one's life." And then Prabhupada, Krishna continues there to give ideas and guidelines on how to think of him. And then he says in text number 10, "One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead." And Prabhupada here mentions, he singles out a very important point here, yoga bhalena. Yoga. So here it's speaking about the Yoga Mishra Bhakta. But Prabhupada isolates this word yoga balena. Prabhupada says, the last paragraph, the particular use of the word yoga balena is significant in this verse because without practice of yoga, whether Sat Chakra Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, one cannot come to this transcendental state of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of Bhakti Yoga. Since the one's mind at death is very disturbed, one should practice transcendence through yoga during one's life. And I mentioned that our lifestyle, our lives currently are a test to this particular thing. That are we living a yogic lifestyle? Previously, I think in the previous chapter, I mentioned that Ayurveda describes that a 24-hour period is influenced by the modes of goodness, the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. So there is no time, no second in the day that is not influenced by the modes, as Krishna explains in the 14th chapter, that there's nothing in this world that is not influenced by the three modes of material nature. So therefore the day itself, the hours itself. And Ayurveda explains that certain times of the day influenced by the modes of goodness. And just to give you a rough idea, from early in the morning, let's say about 3, 4 to about, let's say 10 in the morning, that's the mode of goodness. And you can tell it's the mode of goodness because there isn't much movement. Remember that the qualities of the modes are such that the mode of goodness is light. It brings lightness to one's being. Krishna speaks about this in the 18th chapter. It brings lightness to one's being. Krishna explains that the senses are illumined by knowledge, and one can see things in their proper perspective. And so you see people that are yogis or are serious about spiritual life, including students also, they wake up at the time to study, to prepare themselves. And after like about 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, if you are in Accra, that time is very quiet. But from 9 o'clock, you see all the cars passing by, people passing by, noise is coming out. That symptom of the mode of passion beginning to come in, because the quality of the mode of passion is movement. Wherever there's movement, there's the quality of passion. So, and then it goes on to the afternoon, and in the evening, of course, you have the mode of ignorance where you've had the whole day working hard and you're tired, like that. And you can also feel this practically, after like about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, just observe your consciousness. It just goes down a little bit because that's the beginning of the mode. So when one does things at the right times and does things in the right way, following the mode of goodness, as Srila Prabhupada explains, and understanding these principles, one can actually be able to mold one's lives in such a way that their whole life, it becomes easier to remember Krishna. Like when you come from work, you come into your space, what's the first thing you see? An unmade bed, pots everywhere, dishes everywhere. Consciousness is not good. When you wake up in the morning, what is the state of your place? So these types of things one has to be very conscious of this. And when one lives, as Prabhupada says, in the mode of goodness, and not only molds one's life in such a way that that remembering Krishna is easy, then, as Prabhupada explains, that it becomes easy to remember Krishna at the time of death. Prabhupada continues, one cannot come to this in this transcendental state of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of Bhakti Yoga. So are we passing the test or are we failing the test? Are we spending our time usefully in Krishna's service? You know, there's a saying that says that generally human being, we are performance artists. Human beings, conditioned beings, we are. Prabhupada speaks about this, about the 4 defects. You've already studied that in the Upanishad. That we are performance artists. When we go into a public space, we assume a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Facade. We assume a certain outer covering. And the outer covering may be for several reasons. The outer covering may be influenced by the modes of nature, passion, goodness, and ignorance, right? Maybe one's facade is covered by the mode of passion, where one wants to present oneself to the community of Vaishnavas in a way that they are not truthfully representative. Like, for instance, somebody may go to the Sunday program and dance ecstatically, which is wonderful, but they're doing that just as a show. Oh, he's such a wonderful dancer, Prabhu. He's such a wonderful cook. He's such a wonderful speaker. He's such a wonderful this and that, right? So we are presenting a facade to the assembly of Vaishnavas because we want praise, we want honor, whatever. So when we are able to bring down, of course, I mean, like I said, sometimes this facade is put there for practical reasons. One may have gone through some difficult challenges in one's life, one's spiritual life, and so therefore one puts up this wall to protect themselves. The difficulty is that if you put the wall around yourself, I mean, we've seen this with, I mentioned this previously, with how one Vaishnav here in South Africa, I won't mention any temple, was a wonderful devotee, always dancing, going on Harinam, always smiling. And we thought this devotee was very happy. And then one day we got a phone call that he had hung himself. He was depressed. So he was showing a certain level of, or a certain external exterior, while internally he was struggling. And the point I'm trying to make is that if one does not present oneself truthfully to others, it's very difficult to help somebody. And Prabhupada says it's very difficult to wake up a man pretending to sleep. Have you ever tried to wake up somebody who's pretending to sleep? It's impossible, because they can hear you, they are conscious, but they're not being themselves. So anyway, so it's important, therefore, that one lives a genuine life, a genuine Krishna conscious life, even in spite of the struggles. Social media, we know nobody, I mean, I can guarantee almost everybody here has some type of social media. Raghupati also has a social media, YouTube channel. And everybody uses social media. But the test is, how do you use that social media? Because your guru can say don't use it. You're going to use it anyway, because it's what people do in 2026. But how do you utilize that social media? Do you utilize to build yourself in Krishna consciousness, or are you utilizing it for sense gratification? And you're not cheating anybody if you hide in your room and pretend you're something you're not. You're not hiding. You're not cheating anybody. You're cheating yourself. There's a saying, as I began this little side discussion about, there's a saying that the real true measure of a person, how you really want to measure who you really are as a person, as an individual, is not how you are in public. It's how you are when you're alone. When you're alone, there's nobody to put on a performance for. There's nobody to put on a show for. So what do you do when nobody's looking? You sleep, you play on social media, you play games. So that's really the test of us as Vaishnavas in Kali Yuga. And so Prabhupada is using this word, yoga balena, the strength of yoga, that we cannot assume that when we misuse our time, and you studied this also in the Nectar of Instruction, how Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, I mean, that verse, what is it? How does it start? That one should utilize one's time 24 hours a day in Krishna's service. So that's really the time. Are we utilizing our times properly in Krishna consciousness, or are we trying to cheat others? Because cheating is not cheating others, you're cheating yourself only. So living a genuine life, this is what Prabhupada is meaning here. The particular use of the word yoga balena is significant in this verse because without practice of yoga, and yoga is, let me finish the sentence first. The particular use of the word yoga balena is significant in this verse because without the practice of yoga, whether Sat Chakra yoga or Bhakti yoga, one cannot come to this transcendental state of being at the time of death. And this is mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion. Srila Rupa Goswami defines bhakti in 3 different ways. There's Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and then there's also different types of bhakti. And we are practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Vaidhi from Vidhi means rules. So the type of bhakti that we practice is rule-based sadhana. You are forced to wake up in the morning. You are forced to chant your rounds. You are forced to do service. This is called sadhana bhakti. You are forced to bow down. So this is training, right? This is training. This is the training. So this is yoga balena, preparing the mind. As Krishna described in the previous chapter, in chapter 6, Arjuna said this yoga practice is very difficult. This mind is very difficult to control. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, balabhadridam. Right? This mind is very difficult. It's chanchalam. And it's very strong. It's balabhat. It's very strong. Bala. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord in death. One must have practiced some yoga system, which is what we've been discussing, especially the system of Bhakti Yoga, i.e. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Since one's mind at death is very disturbed, one should practice transcendence through yoga during one's life. And then Krishna continues to speak about the Yoga Mishra Bhakta. We went into detail about that. And in chapter 4, in text number 14, then Krishna speaks about a devotee, pure devotee. He says, for one who always remembers me without deviation, I'm very easy to abstain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So I'll tell you a story, a simple example of the benefits of practicing this Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, of trying to mold our lives in such a way that we remember Krishna without trying to cheat everybody, because trying to cheat others is only cheating yourself and it doesn't benefit anybody. I heard this story from the late Badrinarayan Maharaj of one of his god brothers in Hawaii. So he was very attached to the Krishna book. He was always reading the Krishna book and trying to remember Krishna book, to the point where he got to the point in his life, in his consciousness, that he could remember, because that's one of the books that he was reading over and over, that he could remember lots of chapters. And one day, while he was on a japa walk, he saw 2 men fighting in Hawaii, and he tried to separate them, and they stabbed him. And as he was lying there, bleeding to death, the devotee that he was on a japa walk with, actually we're waiting for an ambulance to come. So the devotee is losing blood, and so the other devotee is trying to chant, to encourage him. And then suddenly the devotee heard the devotee that's being stabbed saying something. So he put his ear close by, and guess what he was doing? He was reciting the Krishna book naturally. At the time of death, he was naturally, it was coming. And this is what Krishna says. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you study further, you'll see the beauty of Krishna consciousness in this. You see, and he explains this, that at the time of death, Mahaprabhu forces himself on the mind and the consciousness of the devotee who's been practicing diligently. So for a bhakta, for a Gaudiya Vaishnav, it becomes easy. It's not just on the basis of your own strength that you remember Krishna, but Mahaprabhu and the Guru Parampara, your Guru Maharaj will help in that regard. But the practice has to be there. This yoga balena has to be there. And so this devotee was a proper disciple. He left his body right there before the ambulance could come. But he died remembering Krishna. And this is the goal of our lives. We don't want to die like cats and dogs. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I'm very easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of misery because they have attained the highest perfection. Now, this is one of the, we're not going to go into this, but this is one of the verses that creates a lot of controversy. You've also heard, even when I was in Ghana, I think on my last few days, some devotees came to ask me about this controversy. Some senior Vaishnavas came to me to discuss this point. But the point is about the fall of the jiva. If the jiva fell from the spiritual world, or if we were created by Lord Balaram, there's a whole lot of discussion that goes on there. So there's, each side is bringing up their own arguments. The jiva didn't fall from the spiritual world. The other side, the jiva fell from the spiritual world. And I mentioned to the senior devotees how I was in Mayapur on Parikram once, and two devotees were arguing about this point. The fall of the jiva, no, the jiva didn't, right? And they got into a fist fight right in the middle of Parikram. They got into a fist fight right in the Parikram. So whatever position one holds, whether it's the jiva fell from the spiritual world, or it didn't show any spiritual maturity in both of them. The main thing is always remember Krishna and never forget him. What's that verse? Eva Kinkara, how does it start? That all other rules and regulations are subservient to this one rule. Smartavyam satatam Vishnu, smartavya kititavyascha. Right? All rules in Krishna consciousness are subservient to this one rule. Just one rule only. Always remembering Krishna. Nothing else matters. The only thing that matters is always remembering Krishna. So one may be a pandit, one may hold one position, may hold another position. But if one does not exhibit at least at the least, the mode of goodness, which means the ability to be able to hear another person speak. Because generally speaking, I've seen with both sides, nobody wants to allow the other person to speak because the mode of passion comes in. And when the mode of passion comes in, people start fighting, right? So you as a Bhakti Sastri student, this is one of the best position for you to be, because you are able, if you follow the instructions that I'm giving you, you follow the guidelines that I'm giving you, then you get to a position, to a point where you can see both sides of the story and not be disturbed. You can see what this person is saying, you can see what the other person is saying, and you can understand both sides of the story and not be swayed. Remember what the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, right? That when Vaishnavas, when the conversation between Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Acharya, right? They're always fighting. Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, they always fighting. I mean, there's one instance where Advaitacharya invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda for lunch. And when they got there, Advaitacharya, and remember that Advaitacharya is a big leader where he lived. He was a big leader. You know, he was an equivalent of like the head of a university right now. He was well respected. So he invites these great two personalities, and Nityananda Prabhu eats, and he starts criticizing Advaita Acharya, right? And he says to him, "Why are you giving me so little rice? You invite me here and you give me so much little rice. What's the use of you inviting me?" Start criticizing him, saying some stuff about him. And then he takes some rice, and then he, from his mouth, and then he throws the rice at Advaita Acharya. Now, depending on where you come from and where you grow up and how you grew up, this is an unacceptable behavior. Even it's unacceptable for somebody to touch their mouth and throw you, right? I mean, in different cultures, it's different. Like in some cultures, if you throw a shoe at somebody, it shows you that you despise them or you are very angry. In South Africa, you throw a shoe, it's like, what's wrong with you? you know. But in some places, you show it through, it's like you slow it through. You throw a shoe, it's an indication of a certain type of consciousness, right? So at the time, throwing rice at Advaita Acharya was a big sign of disrespect. And instead of getting upset, Advaita Acharya started dancing and was very happy. Now, when some of Advaita Acharya's followers heard this, they were very unhappy. They were taking sides. This Nityananda is like this. And so we are warned by the Acharyas not to take sides in a fight between two great personalities. Because what is the so-called fight between Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu is Leela. It's not like you and me fighting, right? You are Nigerian. You are South African. I hate you. Blah, blah, right? It's not like that. This is transcendence. This is Leela. So if you follow the guidelines that the teachers give you in this Bhakti Sastri, you'd be in a great position when you get this degree that you are not going to be disturbed about when arguments pop in, but you're actually going to assess and analyze these points based on the tools and the techniques that you've learned. This is the benefit of learning from other devotees. You become a little sober-minded. And then, of course, Krishna then speaks about the material world. He says, from the highest planet in the material world to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death takes place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Again, it's tied to the previous verse of the fall of the jiva, blah, blah, blah. Don't get disturbed about these things. Holding either position doesn't make you spiritually advanced. Doesn't make you a pure devotee at all. Text number 17. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. And Prabhupada says there in the purport, the duration of the material universe is limited. It is manifested in actually, somebody should read this. Can somebody read the purport? I can take a break a little bit, get some water. Yes, please go ahead, Prabhu.
The duration of the material universe is limited. It is manifested in cycles of kalpa. A kalpa is a day of Brahma, and one day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas, or ages: Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. The cycle of Satya is characterized by virtue, wisdom, and religion, there being practically no ignorance and vice. and the yuga lasts 1,728,000 years. In the Treta Yuga, vice is introduced, and this yuga lasts 1,296,000 years. In the Rapa Yuga, there is an even greater decline in virtue and religion, vice increasing, and this yuga lasts 864,000 years. And finally, in Kali Yuga, the yuga where we have now been experiencing over the past 5,000 years, there is an abundance of strict ignorance, irreligion, and vice, true virtue being practically non-existent. And this yuga lasts 432,000 years. In Kali Yuga, vice increases to such a point that at the termination of the yuga, the Supreme Lord himself appears as the Kalki avatar, vanquishes the demons, saves his devotees, and commences another Satya Yuga. Then the process is set rolling again. These four yugas, rotating 1,000 times, comprise one day of Brahma, and the same number comprise one night. Brahma lives 100 of such years and then dies. These 100 years, by Earth calculation, total to 311 trillion and 40 billion Earth years. By this calculation, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable. But from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as lightning flash. In the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in an Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all parts of the material universe, and therefore they are in constant flux. In the material universe, not even Brahma is free from the process of birth, old age, disease, and death. Brahma, however, is directly engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord in the management of this universe. Therefore, he at once attains liberation. Elevated sannyasis are promoted to Brahma's particular planet, Brahmaloka, which is the highest planet in the material universe, and which survives all the heavenly planets in the upper strata of the planetary system. But in due course of Brahma, and all the inhabitants of Brahmaloka are subject to death, according to the law of material nature. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest with the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Read that purport also. Somebody else can read? Somebody different?
There's 19 purpose. Hare Krishna.
Somebody can read the purport, please?
Test 19, purport. The less intelligent who try to remain within this material world may be elevated to higher planets and then again must come down to this planet Earth. During the daytime of Brahman, they can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planets within this material world. But at the coming of Brahman's night, they are all annihilated. In the day, they receive various bodies of material activities, and at night they no longer have bodies, but remain compact in the day of Vishnu, in the body of Vishnu. Then again, they are manifest at the arrival of Brahman's day. Bhuktua Paliyate. During the day, they become manifest, and at night, they are annihilated again. Ultimately, when Brahman's life is finished, they are all annihilated and remained unmanifest for millions and millions of years. And when Brahman is born again in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, they are captivated by the spell of the material world. But those intelligent persons who take to Krishna consciousness use the human life fully in the devotional service of the Lord, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Thus, they transfer themselves, even in this life, to the spiritual planet of Krishna, and eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebels. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, sir. So there are 5 subjects of the Bhagavad Gita. Can anybody remember what those 5 subjects are? And I know your teacher definitely mentioned these, because every teacher will mention these. What are the 5 subjects of
the living entities?
Can you speak a little louder? I can't hear.
The living entity.
We have Ishwara.
Okay. Ishvara, yes, 1.
Prakriti.
And mention, give the English equivalents also. So let's start with
Ishvara.
Ishvara.
Means the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, but it means the controller, specifically.
Energy.
Ishvara. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda.
Yes, we have Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. We have the Jiva, the living entity. We have the
energy.
Prakriti, material nature.
Material energy.
We have the color to is time.
That's
and
more
the
than 5.
karma,
Start over.
that is the action or activities.
Start over. That's more than 5. Start over.
Okay.
Go slowly.
Ishwara.
Yeah. Yes?
Ishwara, the Supreme Lord.
Ishvara means the Supreme Lord, but remember here,
the
you have to listen
entity.
to what I'm saying to you. You have to listen to what I'm saying to you. Right?
Okay.
You have to listen to what I'm saying to you. I'm saying Ishvara means it means the Supreme Lord. That's right. But it also means the controller. There's a reason why certain terms are used specifically. You're a student, so don't just lump things all together. Understand where everything fits. Just like Krishna uses Krishna and Arjuna throughout the Bhagavad Gita, they use names for each other. Those names are not incidental. It's not a mistake that the names are there. So when we say there's 5 subject matters and one of them is Ishvara, there's a specific reason for that. So as a student, you know it means God, it means Krishna, but it also means specifically the controller. So you have to listen. Okay, go ahead. So the first one is Ishvara, which means what?
Ishvara. It means the supreme controller.
Yes, Ishvara means the controller, yes. And the second one is?
Jiva, the living entity.
Jiva, which
means the living entity.
Living entity, yes. Third is?
Prakriti. It means
Prakriti
material nature.
Material
nature.
And 4? Yes, very
Kala.
nice, very nice. Kala means what?
Kala means time.
Okay.
And the last one is karma. Karma.
Yes. So
it means action or activities. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, sir. So, so these 2 verses address the kala aspect, the time aspect. The two verses that we just read, they cover the the time aspect, right? Time is relative. Even in modern science, time is relative. Time moves differently according to where you are. If I'm standing outside, and all the physicists will know this. If I'm standing outside, and you are in a car, in a bus that's moving, time moves differently for me and for you in terms of measurement. And if you don't believe this, you go. This is why it's beautiful. You should study the Srimad Bhagavatam when you finish here. Those that are inclined this way, this subject of time is discussed in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where time is broken down into its smallest unit. The various measurements of time and how time moves. So just like, for instance, an ant experiences time differently from a cow. It experiences time differently from a human being, right? Human being experiences time differently from the Gandharva, so the gods, and they experience time a little differently from the demigods like Indra and stuff. So time is different, is experienced differently according to the individual. And here we time. Lord Brahma is experiencing time in a different way than us. There is that famous pastime of one king who wanted to go to ask who was it? How does it go now? He went to Brahma's planet to actually find a husband for his daughter rather. So when he got there, he found Brahmaji sitting and enjoying a play, some entertainment. They'd put on a play for him. So he had to wait for the play to finish before he could speak with Lord Brahma. So he comes from planet Earth. Somehow, just like with Arjuna in the same body, he went to Brahma's planet. When he got there, as I said, Brahma was enjoying the play. And then after the play, he sat down and spoke with Lord Brahma that I have a beautiful daughter and I want a suitable, qualified husband for her because I don't find anybody in the earthly planet that can marry her. And Brahma started to laugh. He said, he started to laugh. He said, "What are you laughing at?" He said, "Well, all the people that you knew on earth, all the kings, all the children that you had, they're all gone. Because while you were waiting here, millions and millions and millions of years went by while you were waiting for the play. So although it seemed like a few minutes to the king, it was millions and millions of years had gone past. People had even forgotten about this king that was there. The only thing that they remembered, there was a king who just disappeared. That was it. So we experience time differently. So it's not a good idea, as Prabhupada also explained. Let me just read it again. In the material universe, not even Brahma is free from the process of birth, old age, disease, and death. So there is no escape. Suffering is everywhere. Birth, death, and disease is everywhere. All right. Do we have any questions before we move on? So this is a summary of what you were just reading. Brahma's day is called a kalpa. 4.3 billion years, 14 manvantars, right? And each manvantar consists of 306.72 million years. That's 71 Divya Yugas.
I have a question,
Divya
Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. My question is, does it mean that the Brahma night, was Brahma also annihilated and remained compact in the body of Vishnu during the Brahma night?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the Srimad Bhagavatam explains let me just go back there. So Brahma's night and Brahma's day is, it's 12 hours, 12 hours, they're equal. So it's the same number of hours in each, right? So the night and the day, pretty much the same, just like with us. And so at the end of the day, Brahmaji, he rests, just like with us, during the day we rest. And so what happens when Brahma is resting is that the large majority of the universe is destroyed. So when he sleeps, the earthly planets and the other universes are destroyed, but not the entire creation. And then when he wakes up again, the whole process of creating, manifesting the material world. Because remember, what is that verse? Sarga visargas cha stanam poshanam uttaha manvantari shanukata nirodo mukti ashraya, right? That the sarga, the primary creation, is created by Lord Vishnu himself, the Supreme Lord. And the secondary creation, the visarga, in other words, this material world, the diversity that you see, is created by Lord Brahma. So when he wakes up again, he manifests again, he creates the material universes that have been annihilated. But when he dies, at the end of his life, at the end of this, because there's different types of annihilation, right? There is partial annihilation, there's total annihilation. So when he sleeps, there's partial annihilation, which is what I've been describing. And then when he leaves at the time of, after 100 years, when he dies, there's complete annihilation. All the universes are annihilated. So what you are asking, the answer to your question is, when he's sleeping, only partial annihilation of the universes. The earthly planets are annihilated and other planets are annihilated, but not all the universes are annihilated. Remember that this is the structure of the universe. Remember, this is the structure of the universe here, right? So this is where we are, right? Prabhupada uses this term here, Prabhupada doesn't say the earth. Prabhupada doesn't say the earth. He says the earthly system, which implies that there are other planets in this same system that we are on that have life in them. So, the earth is not the only planet in this system, the earthly system in Burloka. So Prabhupada uses the word earthly system. So that's important. I asked my my Shiksha Guru at the time, Gopi Parana, about this, and this is what he said also. He said, yes, earthly systems, not just earth. And then of course above the earthly systems you have the Burloka, and the Swarga Loka, Mahaloka, Jana Loka, Tapoloka, and Brahma's planet, which is Satya Loka. So this is the topmost here that you see here is Brahma's planet, Satya Loka. Below that, Tapaloka, the planet of the austere sages. This is the planet where you can go to this planet just by observing celibacy. The Vedas say that you can go to Tapaloka just by observing celibacy only. Even without Krishna consciousness, just celibacy in the mode of goodness, you can go all the way to Tapaloka. So you can see the power of the mode of goodness. And then below that, you have Janna Loka, the planet of the sages. You have Mahaloka, it's also the planet of the great sages. It's Maha, the great, and then you have Swaga Loka. This is the heavenly planets, heavenly planets, right? And then, of course, we've heard about this. There's 330 million demigods and demons and Bhuvloka, Rakshasas, and ghosts. And then, what is not mentioned here is the planets of the Gandharvas and the, the Apsaras and stuff, because they are not, see, the Gandharvas and the Apsaras, they are not on the same level as Indra and them. They are like partly God, part human being. Half man, half God, half human being, half God. That's the, Apsaras and stuff. So they can travel on both planets, the earthly planets and also the heavenly planet. And so there you can see, for instance, in the Mahabharata, Arjuna gets into a big fight with the Gandharva king, Chitrangada. right? So this is so, and then below that, of course, you have the hellish planets, the lower planets. Attala, Vittala, Suttala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, and the planets of the ancestors, Pitriloka also. So this is the general structure of the universe. And when Brahma sleeps, most of these universes, including the earthly planets, are destroyed. And then like Swarga Loka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka are not destroyed. I hope that answers your question. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so it is now 25 minutes after 12 my time. So let us take a break. We can be back here at 10 to 12:40. So we get a 15-minute break. Hare Krishna. Oh, before you go, is there any other questions before we take the break? Are there any other questions before we take a break? No? All right. Hare Krishna.
Can anybody hear me? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I can't hear anything.
What do you want, Balabhadra Prabhu? Want to go on break?
Okay.
Take it easy.
Okay, I don't hear from anybody. That's why I'm asking. Can we go with you, Banner?
Hola, le cada mulo la banana walini. Kantin. Fún biscuit deni. Fún mi gari ko mu, go gari so mi gari sílẹ̀ ko. Ko go mi gari. Do ko be ari bo ya ni o tu school. Oh, fue algo que me ayer.
Hare Krishna, Balabhadra Prabhu, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Are you hearing, Prabhuji? My Lord. Are you hearing?
I'm here,
Are you
Prabhu.
hearing, Prabhu? Are you hearing? Are you hearing, Prabhu?
Prabhu, we are hearing
Are
you.
you hearing, Prabhuji? Okay. Prabhu, if you look at the categories of different planets that you put on the screen now, you see that we are in Buloka, every planets. And above us, we have Buvaloka, the Rachacha and the Ghost planets. Where are they putting that planet above us? Does it mean they are very pious or more devoted? Or are they putting them for security purpose of no trespass? Because the earthly people are very stubborn. So why are they putting the Rachacha and the Ghost planet above us? What their importance of putting?
Well, for one, the Rakshasas have they have certain qualities that human beings don't have. For instance, they can fly on air, they can shift and shape, and some of the Rakshasas are actually good. If you read in the Mahabharata during the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna's own son, who was a Rakshasa, he was a good person. So just based on the qualities that they have that we don't have, for instance, the Rakshasas, they don't. I mean, they for instance, one of the things is that they like to eat people, but they don't lie so much like human beings.
Chad. The light.
Okay, is that okay?
Okay, Babuji, clear.
Okay. All right, so now we move to the last section, which is, let me just read it out. In text 20 to 22, yes, in text 2022, the eternal nature of the spiritual world is described, as well as the means to attain it. Devotional service to Krishna. Balabhadra Prabhu, you have a question? You have another question? No, okay. As well as the means to attain it. Devotional service to Krishna. Different ways of living this world are described for the karmis and gyanis in text 23 to 26. But Krishna's devotee need not worry about these paths. Simply by engaging in devotional service, he attains the beneficial result of all paths and at the end reaches the supreme destination. That's in text 27 to 28. Oh, Krishna. By hearing the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita in the association of devotees. And remember, by the way, Prabhupada says something very interesting in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. He says that the 99% of our spiritual advancement can only be made in the association of devotees. So the illusion that I can make spiritual advancement without the association of devotees is an illusion. It's not a fact. And we can also see in terms of the difficulty that Bharat Maharaj ran into because he was living by himself. I asked Gopi Padana Prabhu once that, is there, we don't, because in the Bhagavatam we don't really get that much juice, that detail. All we hear is that he lived by himself. But so Gopi Prabhu explained to me that he lived, because sages, they live in a same environment, in the same space, but he spent almost all his time alone. So there was never really anybody there to help him, to direct him when he was falling head over heels in love with the deer. Nobody was there to guide him, and so so he fell into difficulty. By hearing the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita in the association of devotees. So these things have to be done in the association of devotees. Japa has to be chanted in the association of devotees. Because we see how we chant our japa outside of the devotees, we don't focus. You're thinking about your TikTok account, you're thinking about your girlfriend, you're thinking about your wife, you're thinking about your studies, you're thinking about this. And especially this, I mean, I've made my views on this very much known when both in Lagos and both in Nigeria and in Ghana, that I take the I take it when devotees chant all their 16 rounds walking up and down. I take it into their mind that they are not serious about their spiritual life. They are not serious about their japa. How can you chant 16 rounds walking up and down? Because we know we are conditioned beings. Our mind moves with our movement. Every step you take, your mind is also moving. And so once the mind is moving, the lips are chanting, right? The lips are chanting, but you're not really hearing yourself. You are hearing your mind. You've taken shelter of the mind. This is my view and my observation. And I remember asking His Holiness Parthasarthi Das Goswami Maharaj a question about around this issue. It was years ago though, and he said to me, what he does is that because sometimes he can't chant all his 16 rounds sitting down. He has knee problem, whatever. Most devotees can't do that. So he says, I chant my 8 rounds sitting down and 8 rounds walking. But he said to me, walking japa is not good japa. It's not good japa because your mind is moving, and you all know this is a fact. It's true. The mind, you have to sit down. When proper, you've heard during japa, right? Japa time, you had Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram. Say it properly. You've heard that? This is a japa of Prabhupada chanting japa, right? And he tells this devotee who was sitting like we would sit, he was sitting cross-legged, got tired, and his knee was up, one knee was up, or 2 knees were up. So Prabhupada stopped and says, sit properly. Now, something amazing has happened. I mean, I heard this devotee speak, and he said, this many years later, our Prabhupada had left. He said, this was more than just an instruction to sit properly when he's chanting his japa. But to him, when Prabhupada told him to sit properly, it meant sit properly in your spiritual life. Not just physically sitting, but anyway. And so the point is that the best type of japa is japa sitting down. You can sit on a chair, you can sit cross-legged, but sit down. And you see many of us avoid doing this because it's very difficult, isn't it? To sit down and face your mind is difficult. We would rather walk up and down and just think about whatever. The real test of japa is when you're sitting down and trying to chant, because your mind will sit there and tell you, nah, what are you doing? Go take a nap. You're tired. Hey, you're hungry. Go get some milk. Oh, you're falling asleep. Go take a walk outside. Because I see in Ghana, I see this a lot. In Lagos, in Lagos, I didn't see this so much. But in Ghana, I see this quite a bit. The devotees choose to leave the temple room and go and chant outside where there's so much noise. Cars passing, people yelling. Devotees choose to move from a peaceful temple environment and they go and chant outside. This is the mind telling you have to run away from that uncomfortable position of having to sit down and face your mind and chant. You go outside where there's noise, at least there's a little bit of entertainment. There's like that background noise, you know. I'm chanting, but there's that background noise, so it'll make me feel, you know, less pressure. I know, because I know sitting down to chant japa is a challenge. Sometimes you're sitting, Hare Krishna, right? Or you're chanting Hare Krishna, and the mind says, "Oh, there comes Chaitanya Prema. He insulted me yesterday. I hate him. He said this in class. I don't hate him." So now your mind goes to what you don't like about that person. Or you see the pujari coming out. Oh, look at him. I'm sitting here chanting my japa. He's walking the fashion floor, strutting his stuff. He gets all the boga, he gets all the Mahaprasad while I'm sitting here. Look at him. Look at his lips. There's remnants on his lips there, He was chewing on some Mahaprasad. So the mind is always coming up with all sorts of nonsense to distract us from the real thing, which is paying attention, hearing. And so the mind, we are not smarter than our mind. Never. Never. Remember that this mind, we've been with this mind since we've made our grand entrance into this material world. It's not a new mind that we have. Birth and death means that you take your previous mind, the subtle body, into your new body. Subtle body means mind, intelligence, and ego. You take it to it. So we've had this mind since we've entered this material world. So the mind, this mind that has become its own living entity, right? Krishna says in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, of the Gita, that one should make friends with the mind. He says an uncontrolled mind is the living entity's worst enemy.
It's the greatest enemy.
Yes, the greatest enemy. The greatest enemy. Actually, let's read the verse itself. So you can never, if you're really serious about your spiritual life, like I said, when I said in the beginning that we have to try and mold our life, create a Krishna conscious lifestyle, this is part of it. We have to fight our minds, beat the mind, sit the hell down and chant your japa. Let's see. Okay, here's a
6, 7.
I'll start with text number 4, because these are beautiful verses, A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor acts in fruitive activities. So a real yogi doesn't get engaged in sense gratification. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. See, that's the thing. So the point I'm going on this is that the best way to cultivate the mind is in the association of devotees. You study in the association of devotees. You chant in the association of devotees. I know, like, sometimes living in an ashram, especially surrounded by all these brahmacharis, everybody has a different personality. Some people snore, some people like to yell. It can get on one's nerves. But this is how purification comes, in the association of other devotees. Because if we are staying alone, we may get this. The mind is so intelligent, it may give us this illusion that we are better than everybody else. You see also sometimes, not everybody, but sometimes devotees that are not so experienced, that stay outside, they have a few years experience, they come in, they look at temple devotees, and they say, I'm more spiritually advanced than them. And comparing themselves with somebody that's waking up in the morning and, at night is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness. But because of their conditioned or their lack of transcendental vision, they don't see that the devotees are carrying Krishna in their hearts. And this is lack of association of devotees. Because when you live in the association of devotees, you learn very quickly. you know, Chaitanya Prema Prabhu will yell at you, your temple president will yell at you, or I'll kick you out of class, right? You know, for turning not. This is how you learn. This is how we all learn. This is how I also learned. You know, if you study, for instance, if you ever studied under Jadvaita Swami, you're 1 minute late, you are not allowed in class. If he says we started half past exactly starts. Any less than that, you are out. Now he's softened a little bit. I mean, in the past, those that served him used to be in a lot of anxiety, because if he said I'm having lunch at 1 o'clock and you got there at like 1 minute after 1, he wouldn't eat. His disciples will tell you if they came late, there would be a knock on the door. I lost my appetite. Go away. It sounds harsh. It sounds harsh, but this is how we learn, you know, the school of hard knocks. And so what I'm emphasizing is that this is in the association of devotees. Don't if somebody tells you they're making more spiritual advancement outside of the devotee association, they're lying. They're deluding themselves. Purushottam Prabhu, you have a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much. My question is having to do with the association of devotees. Wait, the association of devotees. Yes, you want to associate, but after learning about their hypocrisy and their pretense, is it good to still associate with pretense? That pretending. Yes. Is it good to always associate with such devotees, or what type of devotees, the association of, do we have to associate with them? Please.
Good question. Okay, thank you for the question. I don't see her. Is Jan Mastami here? No. Okay. I mentioned previously that somebody will have to take some notes and start a car park. So this question that you asked, Prabhu, is a good question. We'll answer it at the end of the chapter. So we need to put this question in the car park. Remember the car park? Car park are those questions that we are very pertinent, but we can't answer them right away. So we put them in the car park, and then we'll make time to answer them later. This is an important question. But we haven't even started yet about some of this. But it's an important question. So who's going to put that in a car park? Who's going to make note of that question? Because Jan Mastami is not here. We always need an admin here. Okay, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Isana Goranga Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Isana Goranga Prabhu.
Prabhu, I'm here.
Put them in the car park. Create the car park.
Okay, then I have to find myself a pen and okay, I'm doing that.
Do so. Create the car park. Very important.
And if you have access, if you have host access, right, host admin rights, then you can use AI to do that, and then remind AI to remind you Zoom AI to remind you of the question in the next session or whatever. So that's the beauty of AI. So there's so much you can. Okay, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Is there any time, any type of devotion when we arrive where the mind is no more dictating for somebody? Because you said that the mind always dictates for us. Is there any reaction when the function of the mind?
What happened? He got frozen. Yeah, I think he got frozen there. Purushottam Prabhu, you still have a question? I see your hand is up.
It's also dictating. Is there any reaction when the mind is dictating? To receive my question.
Did anybody hear Balabhadra Prabhu? Because I didn't hear
No,
anything.
please.
Is arrested by network demon.
Yeah, I think he's got. That's all right. When he comes, we can continue. All right. So we've already spoken a little bit about the material world. Then I'm in text number 14, right? Krishna. Is it number 14? No, not 16. Or 20, sorry. In text number 20, Krishna begins to speak about the spiritual world. Right? He says, what is it, number 20? Yet there is an unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifest and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. So in other words, he's contrasting the spiritual world with what we've just learned about Brahma's material world, which is annihilated at some times, and sometimes it's manifest, sometimes it's unmanifest. So there's a contrast that's made there in text number 20. That which the Vedantis describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as a supreme destination, that place from which, having attained, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. Purport. The supreme abode of the personality of Godhead Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamanidha, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is full of palaces made of touchstones. There are also trees called desire trees that supply any type of eatable upon demand, or edible. I don't know. Okay, so there's Prabhupada is describing there the spiritual world. When one attains to it, he never returns to this material world. Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are none different, being of the same quality. On this earth, Vrindavan, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, is a replica of that supreme Goloka Vrindavan located in the spiritual sky. When Krishna descended on this earth, he spotted on that particular tract of land known as Vrindavan, comprising about 168 square miles in the district of Mathura. So Prabhupada gives a little bit about the spiritual world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated within him. Purport. It is here clearly stated that the supreme destination, from which there is no return, is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita described this supreme abode as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. To enter Krishna's supreme abode or the innumerable Vaikuntha planets is possible only by bhakti, devotional service, as clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. "23. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world the yogi does or does not come back." So Krishna has given the contrast between the spiritual and the material world, right? Lord Brahma's domain. Now he's going to explain the different passing in this world. Prabhupada says in that purport, if the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for living this material world. But if he is not expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Baladev Bhushan, the Sanskrit Kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time. Now, if you go to the Srimad Bhagavatam, you will remember that there was a young man who was called Devavrata, and Devavrata was anyway, without going into the details, Devavrata was became Bhima, the great Bhima. No, I'm sorry, the great Bhishma Dev. The great Bhishma Dev. He became the great Bhishma Dev, and so he was blessed with a blessing by his father because of what he'd done. It's just a story that you can read at a different time. So his father blessed him that he can leave his body when he chooses to. So only when he chooses to die, then he can die. And so fast forward to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna shoots many arrows at his body, and he ends up lying in a bed of arrows. And at that time, the sun was moving, as you'll just hear in the subsequent verses. The sun was moving in the south. It was making its round in the south because the sun moves in the south and then the north. And so, as you'll read, when the sun is moving in the south, it's best if the yogi does not leave at the time because sort of inauspicious. So he waited until the sun made its turn to the north, and then he left his body at that time. So he followed the exact same principles that are described here are the principles that were followed by the great Acharya Bhishmadev. 24. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain the Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God, in the light and an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun is traveling in the north. Purport. When fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Mystics who advance in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, that they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, just excuse me 1 second. All right. However, if for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment by accident or arrangement. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Purport. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni mentions that those who are expert in fruitive activities and sacrificial methods on earth attain to the moon at death. These elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years by demigod calculations and enjoy life by drinking somarasa. They eventually return to earth. This means that on the moon, there are higher classes of living beings. though they may not be perceived by gross senses. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. The same description of the departure and return is quoted by Acharya Baladev Vidyabhushan. Where's my book? Maybe we can read from it now. Let me try and get the book. And we can read Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary on this. Okay. All right. I got the book. Where are we now? This is text 26. So this is Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. So we'll read what he says here. Because Prabhupada has quoted him, so we'll read. What he says. 8:20. What is it? Okay, 26. So I'm going to read you the verses that are quoted by Baladev Vidyabhushan from the Chandogya Upanishad that Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport there. I'm not going to read the whole thing. So we'll start with, let's see, I'll skip that. Text number 24. Right, this is in Prabhupada's book. It says here, those who know the Supreme Brahman attain the Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God, in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. So this is Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary. The knowers of Brahman who depart on the path presided over by the deities of light, the day, the waxing fortnight, and the northern progress of the sun attains Brahman. Commentary by Baladev Vidyabhushan, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan. This verse speaks of the path of no return. The two words Agni and Jyotir indicate the presiding Devata of light, which is mentioned in the Shruti. Aha means the deity of the day. Sukla means the deity of the waxing fortnight. Sanmasa Uttarayanam means the presiding deity of the 6 months leading up to the summer solstice. Understood here are also other deities such as the presiding deity of the year. Chandogya Upanishad says, I won't read the Sanskrit. This is Chandogya Upanishad 4.15.5. On dying, I think Prabhupada quoted the same one, no? No, it's a little different. On dying, such persons, whether they undergo cremation rites or not, go to the deity of light. From the deity of light, they go to the deity of the day. From the deity of the day, they go to the deity of the waxing fortnight. From the deity of the waxing fortnight, they go to the deity of the 6 months, leading to the summer solstice. From there, they go to the deity of the year. From the deity of the year, they go to the deity of the sun, and then to the deity of the moon, and then to the deity of lightning. A non-human form takes them to Brahman. This is the path of the Devatas, the path of Brahman. Those who go by this path do not return to repeated human birth. This is Chandogya Upanishad 4.15.5. So what this is saying is that because remember, earlier on we read about the yogi, right? Krishna spoke about the yogi and how the yogi should meditate on him so that he can come to him. So such a yogi, when they die, because of their yogic practices at a certain time, so this is a progression. Baladev is saying the soul is taken from one devata to another devata for purification, because there'll still be some subtle attachment to also some subtle contamination to the jiva. The fact that they are still attached to yoga is a contamination in itself. So to gradually wean him away from this contamination, it's a gradual process, as Baladev is saying, right? First they go, they go cremation light, and when after the cremation, they go to the deity of light, the devata of light. From the devata of light, once they've spent some time in being purified there, they go to the devata of the day, so on and so on and so on, and eventually they go to the devata of the of fire, where they get more purified until they get to Brahman, where they're clearly purified. This is the path of the devatas, the path of Brahman. So this is not like a devotee. And Prabhupada in the purport is explained, for a devotee this is not necessary. What Bhishmadev did is not necessary. Whether you die in the summer solstice or winter solstice doesn't matter. All right, so he says, the meaning is this: when persons who worship Brahman situated in the eye die, asmin, whether their sons or disciples perform cremation rite, sabhyam, or not, in either case, because of the uninterrupted worship, these worshippers go to their object of worship by means of the deity, starting with the deity of the light. The rest is clear. Between the deity of the air and the deity of the sun, the deity of air should also be inserted. Following the deity of lightning, there should be inserted the deity of water, Indra, and Brahma. From other Shrutis, these details of the path are understood. The non-human mentioned in the verse refers to an eternal associate of the Lord. The writer of Vedanta has also mentioned these deities. Ativahika Talingat, the words such as light refer to the names of the conducting deities. Since this is indicated later in the text of the non-human, who leads them to Brahman. Vedanta Sutra 434. Therefore, the devotees go to the Lord by the path served by the 12 devatas, light, day, so on and so on and so on. The liberated souls go to the Lord through the light of the day, the waxing fortnight, the solstice, the year, air, sun, the moon, the lighting, water, Indra, and Brahma. And then text number 25, Baladev Vidibhushan says, translation: departing on the path presided over by the deities of smoke, the night, the waning fortnight, the southern course of the sun, the moon, and attaining Swarga, the Karma Yogi returns. Commentary by Baladev Vidibhushan. Now the Lord speaks of the path of return, as in the previous verse: smoke, night, waning, fortnight, 6 months leading to the winter solstice, refer to the respective presiding deities. The deities of the year, Pitriloka and Ita, should be added before the moon, Chandrasam. And then the English goes like this. This is Chandogya Upanishad 5:10, 3-15. The English. The householders who perform sacrifices, social work, and charities go to the deity of smoke. From there, they go to the deity of night, the deity of the waning fortnight, the 6 months leading to the winter solstice, but do not reach the deity of the year. From the winter solstice deity, they go to Pitriloka, and from there to Ita, from Ita to the deity of the moon, King Soma. They become food for the deities, and the deities enjoy them. Having exhausted their punyas there, they return to the earth on the path. Chandogya Upanishad 5:10, 3-5. Baladev says, attaining the planets of the moon by performance of Kanyasa karmas through the path protected by 8 devatas, carrying out the orders of the Lord, deities of smoke, night, waning fortnight, winter solstice, year, Pitriloka, Ita, and moon, they return to earth after their enjoyment is over. So this is how people die in either one of these solstices, and how they are carried from one devata to another. And we saw this this example with Bhishma Dev. A mystic, 25, a mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. We've read that. We've already read that. And 26 we've also read. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light, one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. 27. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. So for a devotee, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We've seen devotees die by car accident, by disease, cancer, by so many things. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Prabhupada says, the word yoga yukta is this is text 27. The word yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Shri Rupa Goswami advises, Anasakta Vishayan Yatharhan Upayunjutaha. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. That's the secret. You heard that? One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. That's the best advice. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service. 28. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So in the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami explains that bhakti is independent. Bhakti is independent. Bhakti is not dependent on any geographic location. So, and then he goes on to describe how bhakti is not dependent on varnashram. So one doesn't have to be situated in a varnashram system for one to be a devotee. Bhakti is not dependent on birth. I'm sure you've heard some people try to imply that Africans are not qualified for Krishna consciousness because we are born on this continent. Some people seem to imply that only people born in India or some people of European descent are qualified to practice bhakti. You may have heard this. People sometimes don't say it directly, but they'll say it indirectly. And you know this is not true. This is not the philosophy that Prabhupada gave us. It's something that's coming, which is something that we will discuss as we continue, how these new philosophies are coming into Krishna consciousness and adding stuff that Prabhupada didn't add, for instance, right? So you'll hear all these things. But Rupa Goswami says, bhakti is not dependent on birth. It doesn't matter where you're born from, whether you're born in a poor family or rich family. Bhakti is independent. He describes bhakti is not dependent on gyan. You don't have to be a learned person to be a devotee. We know the famous story of when Mahaprabhu was traveling, and we'll end with this now because we'll continue the rest tomorrow. When Mahaprabhu was traveling in the south, he saw this Brahmana who was sitting there reading the Bhagavad Gita with tears in his eyes. Tears were flowing. But the only problem was that the Bhagavad Gita was upside down. So Mahaprabhu went to him and said, "My dear sir, you seem to be relishing this Bhagavatam." And then people were making fun of him because he was claiming he was reading the Bhagavad Gita, but the Gita was upside down. But Mahaprabhu concluded that he is the one who knew the Bhagavad Gita more than the scholars and the pundits that were mocking him. Even in our Guru Parampara, right? We have Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who was in his previous life as a householder, he was a grain merchant. And he wasn't very educated materially. He was illiterate, in fact. He couldn't read or write. And yet we fall at his lotus feet every day because he's a pure devotee. So devotional service is independent. Bhakti is independent. It's not based on the cloth that you're wearing, orange, white, birth, all these things. It's independent. And so the only qualification is practicing and remembering Krishna, nothing else. So this is the point that the last verse is also. You don't have, Krishna is the person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from all those things, studying and all these things. In fact, it's described that one who practices Krishna consciousness is already attained these things. Already. So I'll end here. I'll see if there's any questions or comments. Balabhadra Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm about to ask a question before I have some mechanical issue by that time. Are you hearing me, Prabhuji?
I can hear you, yes.
You are talking about the dictation of the mind. Dictation. The mind is dictating. Is there any stage when we arrive at the platform of devotion that the mind will started not dictating? Or is there any reaction for the mind to be dictating, but we are not taking it? We are not acting according to dictation of that mind. Can you get me, Babuji?
Asking.
It's two questions I asked.
I'm trying to.
Is there any stages when we reach in devotional service or in the service of the Lord, and the mind will stop dictating, dictating for us?
No. The mind's function is to dictate. The function of the mind is to dictate.
But sometimes
whether you're a pure devotee, the function of the mind is to dictate whether one is a pure devotee,
or is there any time that the mind will stop dictating negatively to us? So negative, not because what we are saying by that time always happened to me.
Always happened to me. Yes. Prabhu, allow him to answer the question.
Okay.
Allow him to answer the question. You ask your question, stop. Let him answer the question and listen now.
So the mind is always dictating, Prabhu. Whether one is a pure devotee or a conditioned being, the mind, that's the function of the mind. And this is why Krishna is saying, we read those verses where Krishna is saying one has to make friends with one's mind. And when one has made friends with one's mind, then the mind will bring things that are Krishna conscious to you, rather than things that are not Krishna conscious. So the mind is a tool. It's a tool, just like you have a knife, you have a cutting board. It's a tool. But what has happened because of Maya, that which is not, we've come to think that we are the mind. We've come to think that we are the intelligence. We've come to think that we are the body. And so we identify with these things. So whatever the mind dictates, whether in terms of feeling or whether in terms of thought, we think this is me. Right? If the mind says I'm hungry, we think I'm hungry. Right? So this is the confusion that we make. But so through I'll give you an example So of sleep, for instance. Right? In the morning, especially in winter, I mean, West Africa doesn't experience, we don't know what winter is. You really haven't experienced winter. But if you, if you, if getting up in the morning in winter time is difficult. It's difficult, right? It's a big challenge. But you force yourself to get up. Summertime, you force yourself to get up. The mind is saying, well, sleep another 5 minutes, snooze button. The mind is always dictating, oh, today the Eagles, the Eagles are playing Bafana. I'm just gonna watch this game and troll Rajbasi. I'm not gonna go to the temple for the Sunday feast today. I'm going to watch this because it's much more entertaining. So the mind is always dictating like that. But through practicing Krishna consciousness, remembering, it becomes easier. Prabhupada describes in the Nectar of Instruction that over time, what happens is that the material world becomes more and more distant. It recedes to the background, even while one is in the material world. Remember Jesus Christ being in the world and not being of the world. So it means, doing your material duties, but not being of the world in terms of remembering Krishna. So yes, there's a point that it comes where Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti becomes Raga Nuga Sadhana Bhakti. And using the example of sleep, we are woken up by an alarm clock every morning, or your spouse wakes you up. But at the stage of Raga Nuga Sadhana Bhakti, you wake up naturally. You wake up out of love for Krishna. You wake up because you want to go do service. You don't wake up because you have to. And you go to the temple room to attend the morning program because you have taste for it. You chant your japa because you have taste for it. So what you are asking is the transition point between Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Ragaduna Sadhana Bhakti. So the mind does change through chanting, through the association of devotees. What is that? What is that? The two verses? Actually, the first three verses. Actually, let's read them. Beginning with the first verse of Shishu Upanishads, and then we'll end. Nectar of Instruction, rather, and then we'll end. Bacho Vegam Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam Udarapasta Vegam, Etan Vegam Yo Vishaheta Dhira, Sarvamipi Appimam Pritivitsasisyad. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak the mind. In other words, when these things are not so prominent, then we know the shift has happened. The same questions that Arjuna asked: how can you tell somebody who is absorbed in transcendence? How does he walk? How does he talk? A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So this is one symptom. When you see, this is one symptom to measure how if the mind is shifted from from conditioned. Speaking, you don't speak as much as you used to, especially nonsense and so on and so on. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpaniyamag. You know the verse. One doesn't eat more than necessary, over endeavoring, and so on and so on. So if one follows these steps, if one sees these qualities in one's life, then it means that the shift has happened, or the shift is happening, because spiritual growth is an eternal thing, it's a lifetime thing. It's not like, now we are Krishna conscious, now we go to Goloka Vrindavan and that's it. Spiritual transcendence is described to be is described to be ever fresh, ever increasing, ever blissful. So growth is eternal. It doesn't stop. Anyway, my time is up. Thank you very much. We'll see you again tomorrow. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. See you.